Hi everyone, and happy second day of Inkvent. I'm so happy to finally be breaking into the Inkvent calendar. I absolutely loved yesterday's color. It was an absolute smash out of the gate, an awesome start to this year's calendar. And let's just get started with number 2 up here. And I do the PSA like in all my videos. Maybe I shouldn't, but if you're doing ahead of time, just have the decency to put some spoiler tags or hide them if you're on Reddit or Facebook, because people don't really appreciate seeing it spoiled by mistake. I've avoided all spoilers studiously, but some people, they just don't understand spoiler tags. But so anyway, number 2 right up here, let's see what color it is. And I'm so excited and nervous about learning how to do overhead filming. Yesterday was my first ever real attempt at filming with a tripod. Oh, let's see what this is. Purple. It's energy. Ooh, my favorite color is purple. This is sheening ink. I like sheening inks. Purple is such an awesome color. Oh, it's like, I'm sorry, this image looks backwards in this camera. Hopefully I can turn that around when I do the playback. So let's open it and we'll do the swatch from the overhead for the second time ever. That's a lovely shade of medium slash dark purple. This is really, really beautiful. I'm going to see, I don't know what the sheening color is yet. I've tried something new with the tripod today. I figured out you can extend it a lot further than I had thought. So it's propped up to my left next to me, and I was experimenting with how close can I zoom in to have it in frame as close as I would like to be and not be completely out of focus. I'm so sorry, doing the head-on shot with my phone camera just for the previous segment, it flipped the ink name upside down. I'm not sure what happened with there. I'm going to have to do a whole lot of experimenting as I learn a whole different way of filming. It looks like this is kind of a green sheen underneath. Is it maybe not green so much, kind of like that goldish color that does look green in certain lights. I'm really, really digging it. It does have looks a little bit kind of like the Diamine Inkvent's exclusive Deadly Nightshade, but not nearly that much of a monster sheener. And this is just a regular sheen, not an extreme sheen. But so I found out last year. I don't know if that was the first time for the Inkvent, or maybe this has happened before. Some of the inks they labeled as standard turned out to be sheeners, and some of the supposed regular sheeners, they turned out to be extreme sheen. So that was an interesting surprise. Maybe they like to keep us on our toes. I love purple. Can't stop painting with this color. That's one of the reasons I like doing paint brushes to do my swatches. In addition to using a lot more ink and covering a greater surface quicker, you don't really lose as much ink as you might with a cotton swab, a Q-tip. Yeah, this definitely looks like a goldy green sheen. I'm gonna see how it writes in a pen. It's because many times the way an ink looks or performs in the swatch, or painting with it, or even writing with a dip pen, it doesn't look exactly the same as it does writing with an actual pen. That's just something fun about inks. I just cannot stop painting with it. This is really, really pretty, but it does, as it's drying, it looks like the purple is kind of disappearing into the background. So can't wait to see what it looks like with an actual pen. And of course, paint off the excess. I don't really like wasting anything. I guess maybe I get that from my grandparents, who are now, all 4 of them are sadly in the other world now, because they grew up during the Depression. Waste not, want not, make use of every thing you can, as much as possible. Now just write the name. Hopefully that does not fall off of my little skeleton pen rest. And again, I'm using, hopefully this is showing up in the frame, the Cult Pen's exclusive dip pen from J. Urban. This is a really, really lovely thing, and it's much longer than the ink muddler, which unfortunately the nib broke off. I don't know what happened there. Maybe I was just putting it nib down in the little the bottle of water I use for rinsing when I do swatching. So in future, going forward, I'm not going to just bang nib down, just rinse it around in the water. Don't let it sit there and risk getting surface tension, fractures. That's the word I'm fumbling for. Energy. Yeah, I'm glad I can write sitting down today. That was very awkward and uncomfortable having to write standing up, or at least for the swatch card yesterday. Let's pull over. Hopefully I'll keep that in frame. Let me check that that's in frame. That's just a little bit. This is a whole learning process for me. So Diamine Inkvent 2025. Inkvent 2025. Hopefully I could get all that in. Ink. I guess I'll have to go to the second line to write 2025 and day 2. That's not a big deal. 2025. 25. Day 2. This definitely looks much more like a Halloween ink than a like Christmassy winter holiday type of ink. Definitely giving very kind of Frankenstein vibes. Going to do a longer writing sample with it now and see what it looks like. I don't know if I want to put this in an actual pen before I see what it actually looks like with the dip pen, but maybe I will put it into a pen because I love the Halloween vibes. Just going to start by writing the name of the ink in the Diamine Inkvent Color Edition before doing the longer writing sample. I had to zoom out a little bit to get everything in frame. Still very much a work in progress, learning how to handle filming with an overhead tripod, but at least now I don't look like a total idiot filming head on and backwards. Diamine Inkvent 2025 Teal Edition. Wasn't too much ghosting from yesterday's snafu. I'll have to, get a lot more practice doing different forms of ink swatching in addition, besides the familiar ones I'm used to doing with paintbrushes. Diamine. Yeah, it's definitely, I can see the sheen drying up a little. I mean, not popping out more as the ink is drying. It definitely looks very much like Deadly Nightshade. I'll have to pull up my swatch card of that to compare for you guys. 2025 Teal Edition. Teal Edition. Writing with the dip pen is much different than writing with an actual pen. It's not, doesn't want to come through on this. I don't know if that's because it's drying up too much or it's just that, I guess it doesn't want to, there it goes. It's a little bit darker on the pen. This is all, a work in progress for me because I haven't been doing ink and pen videos nearly as long as I've been doing booktube and authortube videos. So it's basically I have to learn how to be a YouTuber and create content all over again. Teal Edition. This is Energy. I don't normally print, but cursive 90 probably at least 98% of the time, but sometimes it makes more sense to use cursive. Energy. This is a sheening ink. Sheen. My printing looks much different than my cursive does. Yeah, I mean, dip pens do tend to look a little bit thinner lines than writing with a regular pen. As you can see, in teal, this isn't a particularly thick, but I'm going to do a little bit of a longer writing sample and report back at the end. This is a full writing sample, which I did with Energy, and I also pulled out the swatch card for Deadly Nightshade. I'm sorry, the light has obviously changed quite a bit since the first few segments. I had to go to an eye appointment, so I didn't get a chance to finish the video until just now, and I decided after all to put a little bit in a pen. This is Leonardo Momento Zero. This was a Drum Ghouls exclusive now since sold out. I had just had Deadly Nightshade in it, so I figured it's a very close looking ink, why not just put a tiny little bit, enough for a journal entry and maybe a little bit more writing, so you guys can see the difference between Deadly Nightshade and the Energy. Energy leans much more green, and as well Nightshade, I think the main difference is because Nightshade has a shimmer. That's what I was fumbling for, and this is only a sheening ink, whereas Deadly Nightshade is both a shimmer ink and a sheening ink. And you guys can see, I'm sorry if this is like terrible lighting. There it goes a little bit. Yeah, definitely on that angle you can see it more obviously. Very, very like greeny golden sheen, and it looks a little bit more, you know, purplish in the actual writing with the pen, whereas energy, it's like almost nothing but green sheen, although you can see a little bit of, you know, the purple still peeking through in the handwriting. And this is like the writing sample up close. I switched from the dip pen to the actual like pen, fountain pen, when I came back home and inked it up a little bit. It was writing somewhat dryly with the dip pen. Like even when it wasn't on the page with a little bit of ghosting from yesterday, I had to keep dipping and dipping, whereas with like most inks, or at least wetter or medium inks, I don't need to like keep constantly reapplying the ink to them. So this is like a really, really nice ink. But as I said, I'm not really sure I would get a full bottle of this because it is like quite similar, not 100%, but you know, like close enough for hand grenades, like too close to Deadly Nightshade for me to, you know, want to get a full bottle, though you can never have too much spooky season ink. I love spooky season. As I said in the writing sample, this would be a fun ink to use for like, you know, Halloween, like invitations for a Halloween party or a Halloween wedding. If I ever get married, I am so having a Halloween party, like for my wedding reception, like wearing a black dress with gold trim. Like I am gonna have so much fun if I ever, you know, find a husband. And if I were going to have a gender reveal and find out ahead of time, I'm old-fashioned, prefer to wait for the birth, but if I were finding out ahead of time or had the surprise ruined by a sonogram tech, I would have that Halloween theme too, like cookies or cake pops. Is it a ghoul or a boo? Oh, that would be so fun. I love everything about like spooky season, although I am kind of surprised to see an ink of this caliber in like a Christmas winter type of, you know, advent calendar. Like, were they like mistakenly putting this in something they intended for Halloween? But whatever, I really do like the ink, even if it is, I sound like a broken record, like a bit too close to, you know, Deadly Nightshade for me to want to get a full bottle at this point in time. But, you know, A+ for effort. Diamine always has like awesome ink. So thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.